Are you currently experiencing job loss? Or are you dealing with a failed marriage or failed relationship? Or are you currently displaced? Are you homeless? And in your wildest dreams, you never thought you'd be going through these things. And now you find yourself afraid to try. It's not because you've done anything wrong, it's because your confidence has been displaced. So that's what we're talking about today on Embracing the Fight. Rebuilding your confidence. And if that's you, this episode is for you. Hello, I am Erica Lamar, the digital creator and host of Embracing the Fight. Thank you so much for taking time out to watch this episode. Now, if you've been with me since January of 2023, you will know that Embracing the Fight is about normalizing the conversations surrounding physical and mental health issues and concerns. And since then, I've had several people to come on to share their testimonies, and I've given several different talks about mental illness and physical illness that plagues us in the world today. Now, if you would like to be a guest on Embracing the Fight, I would absolutely love to have you. So please send me an email to operations@diversitydesign.com, or you can send me a message on any of the social media platforms where you will find Embracing the Fight: Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, X, Blue Sky. Now, the only difference is on Instagram, it is Embracing the Fight _ now that I've gotten the business of everything out of the way, let's talk about, rebuilding your confidence. So let me tell you a little story before, we go all the way in. Imagine, growing up in a family and your parents tell you that whatever you try, you can do it no matter what it is. If you say, "Oh, mommy, I want to be an astronaut," they constantly instill in you that you can do anything that you put your mind and you put your hand and your heart to. Somewhere along the way, when you tasted failure, you stopped trying as hard. You let that failure overcome your confidence. And just imagine being that child that thought that they could do absolutely anything until an obstacle came along the way. For instance, what if that child lost a parent and they stopped hearing every day that they could do any and everything? Or say once that child got to be, an adult and they got married and they're like, "Man, my picker must have been off because this isn't it. This is not what I saw, in my household." And they end up getting a divorce. And then after they get a divorce, they're at work. They're doing the very best that they can. And they come in and they tell them, "Hey, we no longer need your services." Then they, sit out in the world and they say, "You know what? My mom, my dad, they told me that I could do anything as long as I put my hand, my mind, and my heart to it." And they tried it. They started a business and then the business failed. What do you think it did to that person's confidence? Probably tore it up. I know it tore mine up. And my story is just like what I just described. Because I went through a lot of iterations in life where things didn't go out exactly the way that I wanted them to go. But now everything, is lining up because I decided that regardless of what's going on in the world around me, that my confidence doesn't necessarily, have to suffer. So let me talk to those people first that are dealing with job loss. You do know that wherever you worked, for however long you worked, everything that you learned is still in your head. Unless, you use ChatGPT for everything, or you use, Claude, use some type of AI to do the work for you. But I'm talking about people that had to learn how to do their particular job, prior to, say, AI. People that worked for the federal government that came in and found out after 25, 30 years they wouldn't be getting a pension, they were being let go, that sort of thing. You realize that everything that you learned during that time is still in your mind. and it's very valuable. You could turn into a consultant. You can teach people what you learned many, many years ago to help them to build their business. Let me give an example. Imagine if you were, an accountant and you worked in the federal government, like I said, for 25 years. You know how the government works. Because finances is not just, knowing the flow of money, it's understanding what makes it flow. And if you're able to understand what makes the money in the government flow, then you can make any business understand what makes money flow. So you could turn that into a business because you already have the years of knowledge and you already have, the skills because it was proven that you did it for 20 plus years. Heck, if you did it for more than 5 years, even if you did it for 2 years, you have 2 more years experience than the person who's coming in fresh right behind you. And that's what consulting is. Consulting is basically taking what you know and teaching it to someone who knows less than what you know. And it's also about showing people the things that they look over and the things that they don't see. Consultants bring a fresh set of eyes to a situation. So if you leave a job and you know how that job was run, you can take a lot of what you learned and go somewhere else and help someone else fix their problem. You just have to be willing to market yourself. And that's where the confidence comes in. So, how do you do that? So, this is what I did. I took an instance where I helped a company to save a plant within its company as my tagline. I basically said to the people that I was sending the consulting packages to, I said, hey, imagine being a company that has acquired another company and now we're thinking about closing the doors. But if we close the doors on this new company, it will show that we as a business have failed. And it may impact, or not may, it will impact the economy of this area because there are only 2 major manufacturing operations in that particular city. And if that place closed, then hundreds of people would have been out of a job. So imagine that you come in to this situation and you see something that you use at a job previously, and that's what I did. I looked at a job that I had previously and I said, you know what, this material that they use here can be used where I came from and they can actually make money off of it because it's waste where we are now. And it was so much waste that by selling it to another company, they were not only able to keep the doors open and retain all those people, they were seeing a surplus, in everything. It was like, wait a minute, we don't have to, drive to all these different open pits. We don't have to maintain all these trucks. We can take these people that are working out in the field and put them here, at the manufacturing operation. We don't have all these diesel costs. It was so much that they didn't have to pay that they were like, darn, now we have extra money. What other things, can we do? And what other things do you see? You see how valuable just knowing and seeing something somewhere else and taking it somewhere else is to a business that's struggling? That's what let me know that everything that I had learned somewhere else, I could use it somewhere else to help someone else. So everything that you learned is valuable. Don't let anyone tell you that something that you've learned will never come back. Well, except maybe those, math teachers and stuff that you had in high school that said you were going to use math every day. No, you don't. You don't use it every day. But no, I'm just kidding. You do use math, when you're calculating your taxes and stuff and, you buying groceries. I digress. What I'm saying is whatever you have learned at a job, and say if you lost that job, or say a plant closed or a business closed, or you were transferred or something happened that caused you to leave that place, Everything that you carry with you is valuable to someone else. You just have to know how to market yourself. And you can't be afraid to market yourself, because guess what? The only thing that people can do is say no. And if they say no, guess what? It's hundreds of other people out there that might say yes. But you have to have the confidence and the wherewithal to say to yourself that I can be a consultant. I can teach this to other people. Or you could be one of those folks that say, you know what? I don't like people. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to do this, day in and day out. Going in, telling people what's wrong, this, that, and other. Guess what? There are consultant opportunities that are faceless, because you have these companies out there that pay you by the hour based on the consulting strategy or the information that you bring to their organization. They sometimes have you to complete, these interview forms, and they have you to fill out these documents, and they come back and say, you know what, we have a customer that needs you to review these documents. And once you get the documents, it's something that's in your area of expertise. You review those documents, they come back and say, okay, we were going to pay you $200 an hour, and you spent 8 hours. That's $1,600 for 8 hours. I don't know a lot of people that would make that much, in 8 hours if they were recently laid off. Because you think about, what you get for unemployment, which is not much. I mean, you don't even get enough unemployment to get gas and groceries. You barely get enough for gas. So what I'm saying to you is everything that you've learned in your previous job is valuable for whatever it is that you're trying to do next. You just have to rebuild your confidence. You have to tell yourself that you are intelligent, that you do have the right information, the experience, and the expertise that is going to help someone else to grow and to be better. So in order to rebuild your confidence, guess what you got to do first? First, you got to put yourself out there. You don't have to start an LLC. You can start a sole proprietorship. Just go online and apply for an EIN for a sole proprietorship under your name. That's for people who don't, have the money right now to form the LLC. Because guess what? If you go out as a sole proprietor and you win one contract that pays for your LLC, you can do that, later. It's okay. You got to get the money flowing. You can't just sit and think about, oh, I should have done this, or oh, I need to do this to get in order and fix this and do this right and do that right. Business aren't built by doing everything right. Businesses are built by getting out there, starting, and doing it. All right. So if you're not a person that has suffered job loss, let's go to the next person. What about that person that said, you know what? I am in love. I am dating my future spouse. This is the end of the line. This is the one for me. And then all of a sudden you find yourself either y'all broken up, or you did follow through, you got married, and now you're divorced. Guess what? You have expertise in an area that you may not want to have it in, but guess what? You can help someone else who's going through what you've gone through. There are life coaches and counselors out there that don't have the experience, that are going by textbook methods to help people get through a situation that you have firsthand experience in. So if you like to help people, if you don't want people to go through what you went through, just imagine you've gone through a divorce and you were, I'm not going to say you were smart enough, but you had the wherewithal to separate your finances in such a way that you did not experience a significant loss. That is a skill. That is something that you can teach to someone who is considering divorce. I'm not saying, you don't tell them go get all your money and put it over here, because no, that comes back out in court, and you would eventually have to show everything. You probably end up having to give away or give up more than you wanted to just because you were trying to hide assets. Judges don't like that. So if you have been through a divorce, or you have been through some type of separation, and you made it through unscathed, or say you're a cautionary tale, you can still help people to get through that. I was actually shocked because I saw a website, and Lord knows I can't remember what the name of the website was, but this lady was explaining how she goes on and she gives advice to men that are, going through relationship issues and problems. And she's given her perspective from, a woman's point of view. She said she was making $150, $200 an hour. Now, I know you can make more than that if you get a good contract with a good company, but I'm speaking to those people that are going through something right now, that are dealing with cash flow issues and their confidence is low. You have to start where you can stand it. I don't mean I guess you could if you want to jump out and get you a big contract, but will you have the time, availability, and capacity to, take care of that with all that you're going through if you are suffering job loss or relationship loss, something of that nature, right? You can turn your pain and rebuild your confidence by helping to coach others. Think about how fulfilling that is when you sit down and you talk with a young woman or a young man who is just going through, divorce, and they don't know which way to turn. Like, they don't have anyone that they can talk to. Their parents are gone and their friends didn't agree with them getting a divorce, and they just need, a person that, is not, they're not biased. They don't know the situation. That could be you. You could be the one that leads them to whatever they need to help them rebuild their confidence. All right. So then what about this next person? The next person is a person who's dealing with grief. Now, you all know I've had several people to come on and talk about the grief that they dealt with. And one of my guests in particular was in Texas, Louisiana area. And she was explaining how her son, was murdered. And she has turned her grief into a conference and into a nonprofit organization that helps mothers who are dealing with grief from the loss of their children due to violence. Now, is that something that she, set out to do, that she really wanted to do? No. She had lost all her confidence. She didn't want to do anything. She just, it felt like she was moving on, without him, because she saw how it affected her daughter. She saw how it affected her husband, and she felt like she was being selfish, and then she just didn't, know what to do. She was kind of like, why am I able to give away, his little Star Wars figurines, and, you know, I'm not grieving like my husband. What's wrong with me? That attacks your confidence. When you think that you're not grieving the way that people think that you should. Even though everyone grieves differently, no one should be able to tell you how to deal with the loss of someone that you truly loved. Now, if you are dealing with grief, there is consulting work out there for you. I was looking on School, and that's SKOOL.com. They were actually looking for people to talk to other people about grief. They want to build a platform for it. Why? Because when people are grieving, they lose their confidence. They don't want to stand up and talk in front of people. They don't want to be in crowds. They don't want to go out. They don't want to celebrate. They don't want to do anything but grieve the person that they've lost. Now, a lot of people will come up and say, oh, well, the person that died, they wouldn't want you to be that way. That may be true. But tell that to the person's heart who lost the loved one. I mean, it probably sounds like absolutely nothing, like it's falling on deaf ears. Nobody wants to hear that. When you've lost someone that you love, you want to be able to sit in that and feel it. So much so that you might sometimes find yourself, lost, to where you don't remember the day. You don't remember the hour. You don't remember anything but the last time that you got a text message or you heard the voice of the person that you lost. Now, if that's you and you have found yourself on the other side of that, and you found a way to remember them, to where your heart doesn't break in a million pieces every time you think of them, or every time someone mentions them, or you see a picture, or you go to a place that you used to frequent. If that's you, then guess what? You can help others build their confidence too, to where they can come back to themselves. Because, like I said, when it comes to life coaches and counselors, when they haven't gone through something as traumatic as you, sure, the education allows them to give you the textbook response. And yes, they're listening ear. But just imagine if you had all three: the textbook response, the listening ear, and the experience of dealing with whatever that you've dealt with. That will help you rebuild your confidence. It will help you to, be able to stand up in whatever it is that you're going through. Now, there's one other group of people that I want to focus on when it comes to rebuilding your confidence. Imagine if you're unhoused. Yes. If you're homeless. Imagine that you went to school, you graduated with the highest honor, and you had a job at a prestigious law firm, or you were a doctor. No matter what it was, something happened. You got sued for malpractice if you were a doctor, or somehow you missed some critical information and you got disbarred, from being a lawyer. And then on your way down, you had no cushion, because everyone has always come to you to borrow money. They come to you to live with you when they have nowhere to stay. They're constantly asking you for groceries. And you, being blessed, you want to help them. You helped them so much till they hurt, because you kept saying, you know what? I'm going to continue to make a lot of money. I'm going to continue to do well so I can give more than I can stand. And then there comes this thing that happens. And when that thing happened and you end up unhoused, your confidence is now gone, because you're saying everything that you learned didn't keep you from this point. And now here you are, homeless. You're either on a park bench, you're in a shelter, or you're living on someone else's couch, or you're staying in someone else's home. You don't have a job. You don't have any means to do anything. And yet you're sitting here lost. It's like, well, what can someone who's unhoused do? Well, before you were unhoused, what were you? That doesn't change. Just because you lose your material possessions doesn't mean that you've lost who you are. There is something great. There is something special. There is something wonderful about you. And if you're on the sofa in someone else's home and you're watching this right now, get up. Because whatever it is that you have learned in life, you can share this as well. You can even start a nonprofit organization, because nonprofits tend to want to help the homeless. So imagine a homeless person starting a nonprofit to help other homeless people. You'll have money coming in. You'll have firsthand experience to know what it feels like to not have a home. Because imagine when people who are affluent come up to the homeless and give them a little bit of money, they take the money, they're grateful, and they drop their head. But that rich person doesn't realize what it feels like to accept the kindness of strangers. They don't know what it feels like to be run out of a parking lot in the middle of the morning, because that's where you fell asleep, because you were afraid to sleep anywhere else, because you could potentially be robbed or killed by people who don't like homeless people. Or you try to wash up and clean yourself in a restaurant and you're constantly being run out, because people think that when homeless people are around that business is not good, and you're going to run away, the customers. They look at you as some type of animal and not even as human. When you are on that side of the fence looking over, it's so much easier to help people who are going through what you've been through because you understand why they're hesitant to follow you. You understand why they don't trust any and everyone. You understand and know when a person is on drugs or they have an alcohol problem or they have another issue. You can tell because you've been there and you see it and you relate to it and you don't look down on it. Build your confidence by helping other people to get out of where you've been, especially if you've been homeless. Because I have done, many, many things like to help the homeless over the years. And never once have I had to sleep outside, on a bench, on the ground, or anything. And my heart has so much compassion for it. But I worked alongside a lady who had been homeless. And I saw that my compassion didn't scratch the surface of what her experience did. So if you are homeless, unhoused, and you made it through to the other side, you might, be cleaning cars. You might be sweeping sidewalks. You might be doing something to make a living. Or you may have decided to start a nonprofit. Do it. Whatever it is, do it and share it. Don't hide it. Because once you're able to share that you went through something and you made it out, guess what that does? It rebuilds your confidence. See, sometimes people think that your confidence is gone. It's not necessarily that it's gone. It just needs to be restructured. It needs to be rebuilt to fit the situation that you're in because life changes and so should your confidence. So today's episode is all about rebuilding your confidence. And everything about that requires action. Sure, you can have those days where you have your pity party and you're depressed. Those are normal feelings, but you can't stay there. If you stay there, then whatever it was that caused you to get there wins. And you don't want to lose, to something that's been beating you. You want to get in the gym. You want to get in the library. You want to get in your word. You want to get in whatever you need to get into to help you fight. That way, whenever something else comes along, your confidence is high enough to fight and win that battle. So what is it right now that you're dealing with that is attacking your confidence? Is it something that someone said to you 20, 30 years ago? Because if it is, you got to let it go. You know why you got to let it go? Because as long as you hold on to it, they're winning. They are living in your head rent free. And you have a space just for them. And guess what? As long as you got a space for that kind of stuff, you don't have room for what God has for you. Rebuild your confidence by speaking to yourself in a positive manner every day. Even if you got to look crazy walking down the street saying, you know what, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am the head and not the tail. I am above and I am not beneath. And you keep saying these things to yourself until you believe it. And that's what you got to do to rebuild your confidence. Take what you know, help someone else up, and continue to speak positively to yourself. This has been Embracing the Fight. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to watch this episode, Rebuilding Your Confidence. And as always, I want you all to have an absolutely amazing day.